Friends and family. Well, it's Tuesday morning and we're buckling in for some storm effects from Isaias. Anyway, so I'm taking a photo of his garden now because I don't know if I'll see it this way again after we get some of the high winds and rains from this storm. So I do have these trellises anchored here because from last night's little windstorm we had, these trellises were leaning north pretty hard. So I had to anchor them up and hope that they survive this next storm we're going to get today. So I have the cucumbers and this melon tied pretty good to the trellis. And I have this trellis anchored with this pole to the ground to hold it up because it was leaning towards me. I've really tied up the tomato branches pretty good. It looks like very thick in here, but it's just for the storm. And after the storm passes, I'll thin out the leaf branches for these tomatoes. I was out here pretty early this morning and most of the bees were sleeping underneath like leaves or sitting on the edge, sleeping on the edges here like a hammock. And then I came along and stirred them all up by tying everything up. This is a pickling cucumber I'm going to take inside. Don't know how I missed that. And you see I've got some pretty bad disease happening on the cucumber leaves now. Humidity's been off the charts this year. So, look at that globe thistle. Just glowing. Ooh, the bee and the bumblebee are fighting. So everything here is looking good, tied up pretty tight. This is my fall harvest, my fall planting of beans with 2 zucchinis for the fall. And I'm hoping that my homemade trellis doesn't fall over. Pretty sure I have them deep into the soil here, but if they fall, it's okay because they're not attached to them yet. But hopefully they survive. The other trellis I'm hoping stays the same as this bean trellis over here. I'm just loving this trellis. So I hope it doesn't fall. Look what I've got growing on here with the beans. I also have green beans growing on here now. Made their way from the other side, along with the purple pole beans. See? These are regular green beans. Making its way up. And I have patty pan squash down here. The leaves are beautiful because the leaves and the squash on Squash Island really got killed by the powdery mildew. And this I think is a butternut squash. I thought it was a melon, but it's looking like a squash. Looks like it might be getting some powdery mildew here. The veins are supposed to look like that, but I think this is getting powdery mildew now. I'm gonna have to spray that. But anyway, I just hope that this survives hurricane winds. We're supposed to have just 32-mile-per-hour winds, but 32-mile-per-hour winds can do a lot of damage on these tall plants. So I hope they'll be okay. What I did do for these cosmos over here is I put in 4-foot rebar. 4-foot rebars, I put them about a foot into the ground and tied them up tied the cosmos up. These guys are on their own. There's another rebar with two of them tied up. This cosmo up here is over 4 feet high. And the sea hollies I always had tied up because they tended to want to just lean down to the ground. The other flower I tied up is these Mexican sunflowers. Well, I didn't tie them up, I actually put them around a tomato cage because these are gonna bend over and break in the wind just when I have one blooming. So I hope it survives. Everything else is short enough where and protected enough where it would be okay. These are the peppers. You see I have 2 lines of jute string strapping them in. I thought I tied this one up. I'm gonna have to secure that. This looks like it's gonna be like maybe cherry tomatoes, which was a volunteer because I didn't plant any cherries this year, but I'm glad they're coming up. See, very glad they're coming up. But anyway, the jute string continues around these very tall marigolds to here through the eggplants and onto the other volunteer. I think those are Juliet's. I mean, I know the ones behind me in the white raised bed area are Amish paste. I think these are smaller Juliet's. I didn't plant Juliet's this year, but that's a volunteer and I'm glad to see them come up. Now I have this tomato here, which is gonna be a pound or more because I have a pounder inside and it's a little smaller than this one. And I'm debating to pull it before the storm. Like, will all the water make it split? I don't want it to split, and I don't want it to get too full of water. I think I should pull it. So anyway, this is exactly how I want the garden to look at this time of year. Complete jungle. Though it is, everything is getting a little bit of blight and bug problems earlier this year. But it's okay. I'm really enjoying the garden, and I hope this time tomorrow it's not completely torn down. Well, I had a feeling it was going to be bad. Could have been worse. This trellis number 1 did fall. I put it up with another anchor here. This is trellis number 2 here. Look at this guy hanging in there. But this is the cucumber trellis, completely down. Ooh, and the tomatoes that were on the other side, completely down. There are trees in the neighborhood that have lifted up the sidewalks and landed on people's cars, so this is the most of my problems here. It's not so bad. Trellis. This cucumber trellis, this is not cattle fencing. This is just wire that I curved over that I had to prop up because it collapsed. Cayenne peppers are down, but not out. I think they'll be okay. Still very windy. And this is the yard. This was on. This is a branch that is like stuck in the ground like a spear. The Lord let them be okay. Looks like a lot of branches fell off this tree here. A lot of cleaning up to do. The fence was flopping back and forth, so we tried to prop it and we ended up poking out one of the slots. We gotta fix that. And in my garden center, this is not a normal tree. This is a branch that fell into this area. Pretty big. Took down my little greenhouse, but it must have came from one of these trees here. My purple pole beans. Oh, look at this. Minor. These did pretty good that I secured with the rebar. These did pretty good. This trellis is a little crooked and the bean leaves are wind blown, wind damaged, but it's going to be okay. I have to watch where I'm going. There's debris everywhere. This here on the carrots. These tree branches. Zinnia. These flowers did pretty good. Squash Island got flattened out. This pepper plant, pretty wind blown. This one fell. Oh, I don't know. That whole area back there did fine. Now look at this Mexican sunflower. Look at these leaves. Completely wind damaged. They were beautiful this morning. Completely wind damaged. But this cage I put up did pretty good. Held it up. Hopefully that'll be okay. I don't know if anything's gonna make a comeback. We'll find out. But man, this place looks trashed. This trellis stood. We got, let's see, 2 feet rebar here. 1 foot is in the ground, and the trellis itself is 6 inches in the ground. So that did good. But this area's a hot mess. But this stayed up. So it has a clinging friend from another tree. But did okay. I hope everybody survived all right. So now it's time to clean up. This garden did okay.